What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here. And before we jump into the video, I do have one big announcement to make. I have just released my first course ever. It is called Scraping Stats. It is a step-by-step guide on how to scrape sports data off of the internet. So we go through pulling statistics for one player, for multiple players, for the entire league at one time. This is a skill set that will allow you to pull a ton of data off the internet, and it's how I built my databases. That is live right now. I will put a link in the description below. It's a course. It's almost 2 hours long, and if you follow along, it's going to take you a lot more than that. But it's really, really cool, and it's gotten good reviews so far. If you want to win access to that course, I will run a drawing. So if you are watching on YouTube, what you need to do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment of something you would like to learn. So that could be how to get a data feed put into your models, how to create a projection model, anything specific, anything general, just something you want to learn below in the comment section, and I will pull a winner and reveal it next time. If you are listening on the podcast version, go give a 5-star review. Same thing. The comment can be something that you have learned or something that you want to learn, and then leave me like your Twitter handle or something like that so I can get in touch with you and I'll draw it out again, or I'll announce it and you can get in touch with me. So a couple different ways. It's been great so far. I know you guys will enjoy it, but let's get on to the video. All right, so the one and done preview for the Wells Fargo Championship. We have to think all the way back to the RBC Heritage to get a little bit of a review because of the Zurich Classic last week. Gup's Corner one and done does not use the Zurich Classic as one of the events. Some other pools that you're in might. I was in a pool last week where you did have to choose one player, but you only burned one player. So I used Ryan Palmer, did not have to use John Rahm. So Palmer's off my list, and I got the win for $1 million. So that was hopefully a strategy that some of you also employed. And I know some of you tweeted at me something similar for last week if you were required to make a pick. Gup's Corner did not require it. So we'll have to look further back at the RBC Heritage, which we absolutely whiffed on. 2 zeros, 2 goose eggs from Jim Furyk and Francesco Molinari. The only kind of saving grace here is that, outside of Matt Kuchar, there were a lot of guys that kind of jumped up and bit guys in the butt. Furyk was popular, missed the cut. Sung Jae Im, Benny An, all popular. Bryson missed the cut as well, I believe. So, I mean, there was unless you had Kuchar, you didn't really make up a ton on the field. He wasn't overly popular. There was a lot of zeros out there. So it didn't actually affect us too much in the standings. We basically stayed in the same position that we were in or something close to it. So this week is pretty compelling because you're going to get a very difficult field, a very difficult course, a pretty good field. You've got Rory in it, you've got Justin Rose, you've got Jason Day. What I think is most interesting, if you look at the one and done tool, and if you have followed along with this over the course of the season, there's a pretty significant drop off here. So this tournament is like 20 deep. There's like 20 guys that have a pretty good expected value, and then after that, it kind of falls off a cliff. So we usually see a more gradual drop and a little later down for this to start to turn yellow, which is kind of like the middle of the pack. It's not happening here. So no surprise that Rory, Jason Day, Hideki Matsuyama lead the way. We have to kind of get into a little bit of game theory and try to figure out what we're looking to accomplish here. So I have someone in mind who I think is a pretty compelling case. And actually, let me just pull up the cheat sheet really quick because I think that might be handy to kind of talk through show you what I'm going through here. So here's the cheat sheet. I think that Rory is absolute chalk city, and he should be, right? I mean, if you haven't burned him yet, if you're not saving him for anywhere, you could probably use him here and be pretty thrilled about it. He's the best player in the field. He's got excellent course history. I think there are a few contrarian options. I think there's 2 specifically. Jason Day, who is the defending champion, coming off of 5th place at the Masters, has the skill set to win here. Obviously, he's won in the past. And Justin Rose. So Rose, who burned everybody at the Masters, is going to impact his ownership in both DFS and in this one-and-done pool, or any one-and-done pool. Rosie has 2 top 5s here in the only 2 times that he's ever played it. So those 2 guys, I think, if you want to go a little bit off the beaten path, are certainly in play. And I'm going to take one of them. I'm going to take Jason Day. And you remember, we actually rostered Jason Day earlier this year. He withdrew 5 or 6 holes in, and in the Gups corner one and done, you get access to the alternate, and Jason Day is back in your player pool. So I've got access to Jason Day again. I'm going to roster him this week because I want to be early on Jason Day. He is the type of guy that, he doesn't always carry a lot of ownership because people are worried he's going to withdraw. But you have to go out and be early on Jason Day. You have to get to him because once he wins, he's going to be like 20 or 25% in DFS purposes, or he's going to be popular in pools. What I love about Jason Day, besides being the defending champion, when you talk about the skill set needed to win this week, you're talking about a guy who can hit it a long off the tee and can hit it accurately off the tee. Yep, that checks out. When you talk about tough courses, few guys tee it up better on tough courses than Jason Day does. We've seen him have success at Torrey Pines, obviously winning here at Quail Hollow. Like, this is a really interesting spot for him, and we always see him play well in tough fields and tough courses. So I'm going to roster him in our weekly lineup, and then we have to look at the seasonal lineup, which is getting a little hairy at the moment. We had Ty Hatton earmarked for this spot before the season. Remember, I built this out before the season started. He's not playing this week. We had a similar situation last week where we had Paul Casey, and he wasn't playing the RBC Heritage, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me, and we swapped out Furyk, who ended up burning us, but that was our swap. I'm going to just plug Casey in here. Okay, I don't love doing this, and the new schedule is kind of messing with this. We were doing a pretty good job of predicting who was going to play what events, but the new schedule kind of messing with us a little bit. So we're going to play Paul Casey here, and then we're going to kind of be square again, but I don't want to blow up the whole rest of the season trying to get to somebody this week. So where does Casey rate out? He hasn't really played well. He missed the cut at the Masters, although the time we saw him before that, and he didn't play well at the match play either. But the time before that we saw him was the win at the Valspar. So a 5th place last year, a 12th place 2 years ago. I think this is not a terrible spot for Paul Casey. I would like to see a little bit more inspiring golf, but not the worst. And we get he's probably going to be very low owned, and I get to keep my season long lineup basically intact. So those are the 2 guys that I'm going with. Let me know who you're going with this week. Tweet me, it's at DFS On Demand, or leave a comment below. See ya.